Congresswoman Frankel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to all of you for your service. Appreciate it. Let me just make a comment that I think, given the economic stress that this country is under, this is not a time to cut back the Army Corps budget. Other than, and I say this with probably no respect, is I don't think we should be spending money on that stupid, bigoted border wall, which I think is inane, but no comments necessary on your part. Secretary James, I know that the marine industry would agree with you on taking a look at the cost-benefit analysis, because they believe that there are a lot of issues associated with the marine industry that's not taken into account. But I have some local issues I'd rather get your comment on, unless you feel, okay. I just wanted to pass that on.
Well, my feeling on that, I didn't dream it one night. You're exactly right, Congresswoman. That's from years of dealing with people in both the inland navigation, the harbor people on the coast, and people seeking flood control in this country. We've still got people that get flooding, just like the Missouri River did last year. And those are the people that cannot get projects because their benefit cost ratio is too low to be funded.
Anyway, thank you for looking at that. I want to ask a couple questions. In terms of the Central Everglades Planning Project, Army Corps' position, do you believe that a new start is necessary for each individual project?
Yes, ma'am. Our counsel has looked at this several times, and unfortunately, that is the current position of our lawyers.
It is okay. And first of all, I want to also thank you for the additional funding that you are requesting. On the, you probably know about the controversy in Palm Beach County and Martin County concerning the lake level of Lake Okeechobee. So this year, it's my understanding that this year that you allow the lake to go 2 feet below this average, if you're following that. There is a very big fear, especially in the cities and the counties, that we're going to go to a drought. I was mayor when we had a terrible drought, and we almost lost our water. It's also a concern of the agricultural community. So I'm just, first of all, do you expect that we're going to have any drought measures? And is this going to be something that you're going to be doing every year?
We don't expect any drought, ma'am. Again, we think a couple of years ago we probably came in too high on how much water was in the lake. Last year we went low, mainly to be able to champion or to be able to not have the algae blooms. That worked very, very well. This year we're going to go a little bit higher. I don't have a number, but I think you're probably aware of, we have some very, very strict protocols of how we work the lake levels. We're right in the middle of redoing that, so we have a little bit better table to be able to make sure that everybody knows what's going to happen with the lake. But we do not see a significant problem this year.
Okay, that's good. And just, Madam Chair, just to remind the committee and also the Corps that last year in our budget we put language which encouraged the Corps to use the best available science to determine appropriate lake levels. So I would hope that we'll have that again, Madam Chair, and that you'll be doing that.
We're going to do it regardless of what the language is, ma'am. We're going to put the best science we have.
All right, and just I want to ask you in terms of find my notes here, some of our projects, whether they're on schedule, Herbert Hoover Dike.
Yes, ma'am, on schedule.
On schedule. How about the Midtown Beach renourishment? I know there's been some back and forth on that. How is that going?
I don't believe I have that one, but I'll get back with you on Midtown.
That would be great. And what about with the Everglades restoration? Can you give me an update on how the completion on that?
So overall, I think we're in very, very good place, and Congress has done a great job of investing in it in the last several years. We've seen a lot of new starts. We've seen a lot of projects being done. We continue to be able to get a very, very good investment on the money that's going back in there. So there's no specific challenges out there. The main thing we're doing is we want to be able to make sure we work the EAA reservoir, because that's a critical part of making sure that water flow goes in the Everglades. And that's back to your question about the new start.
Yes.
And then this is where that's got to have, I would think in the WRDA, it could have, some language. And then in the work plan for 21, that would be a good place to be able to put a new start in the 21 work plan.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we try to do that?
We need to get that EAA reservoir done, ma'am.
Okay. Then I want to ask you about Port Everglades, not Everglades Restoration, Port Everglades, which is a port that accepts cargo and so forth. It received a new start, thank you for that, in last year's Army Corps work plan, and $29 million to start moving the Coast Guard station. Any estimate and when the construction will start at the port and how long it's going to complete the first step, and then how much more money will be needed in the construction account for the entire project?
So this one did get a new start. That's good news. The next big thing is the project partnership agreement. We expect that to come in sometime in December, and that'll be that's good news. And then we've got to do a supplemental NEPA because we've got some ESA issues out there. That'll be done, I think, in this September. And then when it comes down to what we think the actual construction, what I'll do is I'll have my guys lay out. I've got a beautiful graphic here. We'll lay out exactly what the deliverables are. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing we're worried about is coral. You know what happened in Miami. So we want to make sure we do this right. And we've got a new dredging methodology. So when we dredge out Port Everglades, we don't see anywhere near the risk of the coral that has been experienced in the past.
Good, thank you, that's excellent. I yield back.
$238 million is what it's going to need at the end.
Is that total money for both state and federal, or is that the federal?
That's the federal, the balance to complete. That's what we've already spent about 29 million, so that's about the rough order of magnitude.
Then how much what portion of that is of the project?
I think that's 65%.
Thank you so much. First of all, I thank you all again. I really like your approach. Very common sense. Okay, let me get back to the Everglades restoration. So this is, and back to the water level, which is such a controversy in my area because what's happening, as I think you know, in parts of South Florida, they're having the green algae in the water, which is very disruptive to them. And the folks like where I live in the Palm Beach County and the cities, they're all worried about not having enough water. So it's like the people in Martin County, they don't want too much water in the lake, and then people south of them are afraid of too little in the lake. I'm sure you get that back and forth. So this question is related to that. In Order 2000, when approving the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan, Congress included a provision called the Savings Clause, and this provision prohibited the Corps from changing water supply to utilities, agriculture, and other Lake Okeechobee water users when completing the restoration projects. Now, my local folks, again, in Palm Beach County, are very anxious about what's going to be the new, what you call LOSM, the Lake Okeechobee System Operating Manual, which I guess will guide on how high the lake should be. And they are very anxious about that, and they are requesting that there be some kind of a saving clause in this new schedule. And I would just like you to comment on that, the practicality of that, the pros, the cons.
Ma'am, I don't personally know the savings clause with respect to Okeechobee, but let me figure it out. The main thing we want to do is be very, very open and willing to, take any ideas. This study is not going to be done till 22, so we've got 2 years. We're doing a lot of outreach, and if it's something that we're legally allowed to do and it makes sense, then we'll certainly take a good, hard look at it.
Well, that's very good. Thank you for taking a look at that, because that's,
Sure.
I'm sure that's, you might want to sit around the table with some of these folks and understand their concern. I'm sure you all do that.
Congresswoman, I can tell you're
Sure.
sincerely concerned about that area, the Lake Okeechobee area,
Yeah.
and I understand that. I have fished Lake Okeechobee for probably 25 years in the wintertime, before I took this job, of course. But I'm quite familiar with the area, and I'm quite familiar with what your concerns are. I will tell you this, ecologically, we think between 12 and a half foot and 15 and a half foot is probably the right spot to be. And the other thing I wanted you to know is that we have ERDIC, Engineer Research and Development Centers, thank you, working on the algae and how to get rid of the algae, dissolve the algae, or whatever we could do in case we have the problem we did year before last again. I made a trip to Florida during that time just to see that, and it was distressing for everyone I ran into down there. So I want you to know we're watching it.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question sort of related, this is like it's always something. Now there is another group am I done? Someone's knocking at me? No, okay. Another group is concerned about the large number of the ASR, aquifer storage and recovery wells that are being proposed for the upcoming Lake Okeechobee watershed restoration project that is north of the lake. They are concerned that not enough water will be able to move south if it's stored below ground. My question, have you heard about these concerns and your response of that?
I have not. Let us blow into it and come back and let you know. I'm sure my guys on the ground probably do, but we are worried that if there's a lot of draw out of the aquifer, what you're talking about could be exactly true. So
Okay,
this
all
is
right.
where we got to put that into the equation.
Okay, good. So thank you for taking that into account. And then finally, in my last 13 seconds, Secretary James, back to that cost-benefit analysis, just to remind you that the OMB, that their cost analysis is almost always different than the Army Corps, and I don't know how you can figure that one out, but
Well, let me tell you, that's two different things. OMB's reasoning behind their benefit cost ratio and analysis, it is different because to authorize a project, the benefit cost ratio has to be 1.0 and above. Now, the administration's viewpoint is to appropriate money for a project, it has to be 2.5 and above. And I'm not arguing to change that. I mean, I'm not saying the administration needs to change that. What I'm saying is that the individual needs of this country, if you've got a project, whether it be navigation or flood control, we need to get all your benefits. We don't need to be just cherry picking the easy ones over the top and get to the 1.1 and quit.
got it.
We need to get up to where it's cost effective for appropriation. And we're a lot of projects, we're not doing that. I don't know, I may discover as we get further in that with the general, that they are taking all the benefits. Personally, right now, I don't think so, and we're going to be looking at it.
Okay, well, that might solve that issue, but thank you very much. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.